What if everything you think about attraction is a lie? What if the person you can't stop thinking about isn't really your soulmate, but a reflection of the darkest parts of yourself? They told you it was chemistry. That mysterious feeling when your heart races, your body tenses, and your mind can't stop replaying one person's voice, smile, or presence. They told you it was natural, that being attracted to someone intensely, almost obsessively, is a beautiful sign of connection, of desire, of life. But Carl Jung would look you in the eye and say, no, it's not chemistry. It's not magic. It's your shadow. Sexual attraction, according to Jung, is not just about love or physical compatibility. It's a psychological explosion, one that often reveals more about your wounds than your wants. Because when you're drawn to someone so strongly that you feel powerless, that's not love. That's projection. Jung believed that inside every one of us lives an unconscious opposite, the anima in men and the animus in women. These inner figures are not just abstract ideas. They are emotionally charged forces that represent what we've suppressed, denied, or never developed within ourselves. And here's the terrifying part. When you meet someone who reflects your anima or animus, your psyche lights up. It says there, that person holds everything you lack. So you don't fall in love with them. You fall in love with yourself, or rather, with the part of yourself you've never met. This is why sexual attraction often feels irrational. You may know that the person is unavailable, dangerous, manipulative, or even toxic. But the pull is stronger than logic. You feel addicted, haunted, spellbound. It's because your unconscious has mistaken them for completion. Now imagine what this means in a world where seduction is weaponized, where people learn to mimic your deepest fantasies without even knowing it, where some women instinctively learn that the way to dominate a man is not through aggression, but through reflection, through becoming his unconscious desire. Because if a man has never confronted his inner anima, if he's never looked into the mirror and asked, why do I crave what I crave? Then he is not choosing. He is being chosen by his wound. And if she knows how to play that role, whether consciously or not, he will surrender. He will call it love. But it's just projection. She isn't the one. She's a mirror. They told you it was natural, that being attracted to someone intensely, almost obsessively, is a beautiful sign of connection, of desire, of life. But Carl Jung would look you in the eye and say, no, it's not chemistry. It's not magic. It's your shadow. Sexual attraction, according to Jung, is not just about love or physical compatibility. It's a psychological explosion, one that often reveals more about your wounds than your wants. Because when you're drawn to someone so strongly that you feel powerless, that's not love. That's projection. Jung believed that inside every one of us lives an unconscious opposite, the anima in men and the animus in women. These inner figures are not just abstract ideas. They are emotionally charged forces that represent what we've suppressed, denied, or never developed within ourselves. And here's the terrifying part. When you meet someone who reflects your anima or animus, your psyche lights up. It says there, that person holds everything you lack. So you don't fall in love with them. You fall in love with yourself, or rather with the part of yourself you've never met. This is why sexual attraction often feels irrational. You may know that the person is unavailable, dangerous, manipulative, or even toxic, but the pull is stronger than logic. You feel addicted, haunted, spellbound. It's because your unconscious has mistaken them for completion. Now imagine what this means in a world where seduction is weaponized, where people learn to mimic your deepest fantasies without even knowing it, where some women instinctively learn that the way to dominate a man is not through aggression, but through reflection, through becoming his unconscious desire. Because if a man has never confronted his innerma, if he's never looked into the mirror and asked, why do I crave what I crave? Then he is not choosing. He is being chosen by his wound. And if she knows how to play that role, whether consciously or not, he will surrender. He will call it love, but it's just projection. She isn't the one. She's a mirror. Jung said something chilling. The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. But in the case of sexual attraction, driven by the shadow, the transformation isn't always healthy. It can be obsessive, destructive. It can reduce a person to nothing more than their desire. This is the darkest truth about attraction. You are not always drawn to who is good for you. You are drawn to who completes your internal story. And sometimes your story is a tragedy. You may be a man who never felt seen by his mother. So when you meet a woman who is emotionally cold, who withdraws love and gives it only when you chase her, you feel alive. You think this is it. But what you're really trying to do is rewrite the past to win a battle you lost in childhood. This is the compulsion of sexual trauma, not always from physical abuse, but from emotional patterns that were never healed. The woman becomes your battlefield. You try to earn what should have been freely given, and when she denies it, it hurts more. So you desire her more. Now let's flip the mirror. There are women too who are not seeking love but power. They don't want to be loved. They want to be chased, worshipped, obsessed over. They weaponize their sexuality, not out of evil, but out of pain. Their shadow was never shown safe affection. So now it seeks dominance through desire. And when a man falls at her feet, she feels alive until he asks for emotional intimacy. Then she runs, because the moment it becomes real, the illusion dies. Sexual attraction is not always about connection. Sometimes it's a psychological trap, where your deepest unmet needs disguise themselves as romantic longing. Carl Jung didn't say this to make us afraid of desire. He said it to make us conscious of it. To ask, who does my soul reach for when my mind is asleep? Who do I crave, and why? Because if you never answer that question, you will keep choosing the same person over and over again in 100 different bodies. You'll call it fate, but it's just your shadow pulling the strings. So here is a truth few can handle. Sometimes the person you desire the most is the exact person sent to destroy you. Not because they're evil, but because your unconscious wants to recreate your original wound, hoping this time you'll survive it. That's not love. That's karma. And karma is not punishment. It's repetition until you learn. The darkness is not in the other person. It's in you. It's in what you project, what you chase, and what you run from. Sexual attraction can be holy, but only when you see the demon behind the curtain. Only when you ask, is this love? Or am I trying to finish an unfinished story? You think you're in control, that you're choosing who to flirt with, who to date, who to chase. But what if every move you make in your love life isn't really made by you? Carl Jung warned that the unconscious mind is always active, and the most dangerous part? You don't even know when it's choosing for you. There was a man, highly successful, emotionally intelligent, respected by everyone. But every time he fell in love, it was with a woman who emotionally rejected him. One woman left him for someone else. Another ghosted him after intense intimacy. Another mocked him when he showed vulnerability. Different women, same story. Now, logically, he knew these women were not right for him. He even warned his friends, she's not healthy for me. But he kept going back. Why? Because his unconscious wasn't trying to find love. It was trying to resolve pain. You see, this man grew up with a distant, cold mother, a woman who didn't show affection, who made him feel invisible. So now, as an adult, his psyche is constantly seeking that same feeling, hoping to fix it this time. He's not chasing women. He's chasing his mother's ghost. This is how sexual attraction becomes a psychological loop. You're not addicted to the person. You're addicted to the wound they represent, to the hope of finally winning, finally healing. And that's the trap Jung tried to warn us about. Sexual energy is one of the most powerful forces in the human psyche. It's not just about pleasure. It's tied to identity, safety, power, validation. And when that energy mixes with your deepest emotional pain, it becomes magnetic, explosive, but also dangerous. Let's talk about women now. There are women who are drawn again and again to emotionally unavailable men. Men who are charming, exciting, dominant, but cold, detached, often cruel. They say things like, "Why am I only attracted to men who hurt me?" Or, "I lose interest when a guy is too nice." Sound familiar? It's not a flaw in your personality. It's a sign of emotional programming. Many of these women were taught, either directly or indirectly, that love must be earned. That being ignored means you need to try harder. That rejection is a challenge. So the moment a man shows indifference, the attraction spikes. Why? Because the unconscious says, there it is, the familiar pain. Let's try to fix it this time. And if that man knows how to use this dynamic consciously or not, he becomes her obsession. That's not love. That's inner chaos looking for a savior. But it doesn't stop there. There are women, modern women, who weaponize this truth, who realize that sexuality can control a man more than logic ever could. Not because they're evil, but because it works. They learn that withholding emotional availability while offering intense physical seduction creates a hook, a bond stronger than most men can break. They mimic the man's desires. They become the fantasy, not the real woman. And the more the man chases her, the more powerful she feels. It's psychological domination, disguised as romance. Jung would call this a projection trap. The man doesn't love her. He loves what she represents as missing half. But here's where it gets horrifying. She doesn't love him either. She loves the control. She loves seeing him lose himself because it gives her back something she lost long ago: power, safety, or even revenge. This is the darkest corner of sexual attraction, where two people are not meeting with open hearts, but with broken mirrors, where intimacy isn't real, it's performance. Both sides are using the other to fix something from the past, and the more intense it feels, the more dangerous it becomes. Because if you don't know your shadow, it will use attraction to drag you into hell with a smile on its face. Carl Jung didn't say this to scare you away from relationships. He said it because real love cannot exist without awareness. You have to look at the people you're drawn to and ask uncomfortable questions. What do they remind me of from my past? Do I feel safe with them, or just addicted? Am I myself around them, or a version they seem to want? Because here's the truth. Attraction is not always a sign of compatibility. Sometimes it's a warning, a signal that your psyche is trying to finish a story, not start a new one. That's why people often ask, why do I always fall for the same type? Or, I knew they were bad for me, but I couldn't stop. The answer isn't found in logic, it's in the unconscious. Jung's theory of individuation teaches us that we must integrate all parts of ourselves, the anima, the animus, the shadow, before we can truly choose. Otherwise, we are just puppets. Desire pulls the strings, and we call it fate. So if you keep chasing unavailable women, emotionally manipulative men, or chaotic lust-driven relationships, you have to stop and ask, what part of me is choosing this? And why does it feel like home? Until you answer that, you'll keep waking up in the same emotional nightmare, just with a different face beside you. Because the truth is, we are not attracted to people. We are attracted to emotions we've never resolved. And in that chaos, love becomes a battlefield. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. And if you're still carrying wounds that you never healed, they will speak louder than your words, louder than your values, and louder than your logic. This is the darkest truth about sexual attraction. It's not about finding the right person. It's about discovering what your pain desires. Let that sink in. Most people believe they're falling in love with someone's qualities, their eyes, their voice, their intelligence, their energy. But what if you're really falling in love with their pattern? The pattern that mirrors your unfinished story. The one where you weren't chosen. The one where you had to beg for attention. The one where love was always out of reach. Jung warned that if you don't make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life, and you will call it fate. Let's say you're a man who constantly falls for emotionally intense, seductive women who ignite something primal in you. You tell yourself this is chemistry, this is passion. But every single time, you end up feeling emotionally drained, confused, and broken. That's not passion. That's possession. You weren't falling for a woman. You were falling into your shadow. Maybe you've never felt truly powerful in life. Maybe you grew up believing your worth came from being needed. So now you chase women who reflect back your deepest insecurity, the fear of not being enough. And when they validate you, you feel like a god. But when they pull away, you feel like nothing. That's not love. That's addiction. Now, let's talk about women again. There are women who keep falling for emotionally cold, dominant men. Men who withhold affection like it's a prize. And every time he looks away, it feels like a challenge. Maybe if I just prove I'm good enough, he'll choose me. You weren't drawn to him because it's exciting you were drawn because he reminds you of the man who never truly saw you, your father, your first heartbreak. So what does your psyche do? It tries to finish the story. It hopes this man, this time, will give you the closure your father never did. But he won't, because he's not your father. And this isn't healing, it's repetition. This is what Jung called a repetition compulsion. You recreate the pain again and again until you finally become conscious of it. And the moment you do, the spell breaks. Because here's what most people never realize. Sexual attraction can be manipulated by trauma. The more familiar the wound feels, the more intense the desire becomes. You call it a spark, but it's really a scream from your past. That's why the most toxic relationships are often the hardest to walk away from. Not because you love them, but because you're emotionally entangled, bound by invisible strings of unhealed pain. Now you may be asking, so what's the solution? Do we give up on love? Do we fear attraction forever? No, but you must stop assuming that attraction means alignment. Instead, become an investigator of your own desires. Ask yourself, why do I feel pulled to this person? What emotion do they trigger in me? Is this attraction coming from wholeness or emptiness? Because if your desire is coming from a place of lack, it will always seek to fill a hole, and that hole will never be filled by another person, only by you. Jung believed that the path to true love starts with individuation, the process of integrating your shadow, your wounds, and your projections. Only then can you love consciously. When you love from wholeness, you're not clinging. You're choosing. You're not seeking salvation in someone else's arms, but sharing your completeness. Real love begins when you stop needing someone to fix your past and start being present in the now. That's when sexual attraction transforms from chaos to clarity. You're no longer drawn to people who make you feel like your trauma did. Instead, you're drawn to those who reflect your healing. And here's what is terrifyingly beautiful about that. These people want to make your heart race in panic or keep you awake at night doubting yourself. They'll feel calm, grounded, maybe even a little boring at first, because their nervous system is used to the storm. Peace feels unfamiliar, but it's not boring. It's foreign until you make it your home. So the next time your heart races around someone, ask yourself, is this excitement or fear in disguise? Love doesn't always look like fireworks and obsession. Sometimes it looks like stillness, safety, and truth. That is the love Jung wanted us to find, not the one shaped by fantasy, lust, or trauma, but the love born from the integration of self. The love that doesn't trap you, but frees you. Before you fall in love with another person, fall in love with the parts of yourself that are still screaming. Listen to them, heal them, then choose love, not out of desperation, but out of wholeness. That is how you escape the darkest truths of sexual attraction, not by rejecting desire, but by understanding its voice. If this makes you rethink your relationships, remember, you don't attract what you want, you attract what you haven't healed. Make your healing your power. This is not just theory. It's a call to awareness, to examine your patterns, and to stop repeating emotional trauma. The relationships you choose, the people you desire, they are mirrors of your inner world. When you understand that, you reclaim choice. Attraction can be holy, chaotic, destructive, or transformative. The difference lies in consciousness. Are you running toward what completes your shadow, or what nurtures your wholeness? The answer determines whether your next love will be another repetition of pain or a true reflection of growth. Awareness transforms desire. Understanding transforms chaos. Healing transforms attraction. And in that transformation, sexual attraction becomes not a trap, but a gateway to your deepest self.